The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus exclaimed, "I give praise to you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, for although you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, you have revealed them to little ones. Yes, Father, such has been your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wishes to reveal him. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden light." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise you, Lord Jesus Christ.
What was that line in last Sunday's Gospel about giving a cup of cold water to a disciple? There were several times last week a cup of cold water sounded pretty inviting. And although I'm not a huge fan of the consumer drive to have Christmas in July, a little burst of Arctic air would have been kind of pleasant last week, especially to those of you who were suffering without power. So with those things in the back of my mind, I remember that a number of years ago, I gave an adult faith formation presentation on heaven and hell. And I introduced that topic by comparing two popular Christmas tunes. Santa Claus is coming to town, and Here Comes Santa Claus. Now, first we have to realize that in our minds, especially in our subconscious, Santa Claus is more than St. Nicholas. Santa Claus, especially in our very young unconscious mind, even in our older unconscious mind, does become a symbol, a stand-in for our parents and ultimately for God and what God is like. So simply put, is our sense of God the God like Santa Claus is coming to town? A God who is making a list and checking it twice, finding out who's naughty or nice, a God who sees you when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake, and knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Or is the God we worship and believe in more like the one we find in Here Comes Santa Claus? A God who has a bag filled with toys for boys and girls again. A God who doesn't care if you're rich or poor. He loves you just the same. A God who knows that we're all God's children, and that makes everything right. Those are two very different versions of Santa and two very different versions of God. In which Santa, in which God do you believe? Which one is Lord of your life? And if you acknowledge in your heart of hearts that you really are drawn towards the version that we find in Santa Claus is Coming to Town, then as a Christian spiritual leader, I'd have to ask you to prayerfully re-examine your image of God. I think you've misunderstood the God that Jesus has revealed to us. And even more, you've missed the meaning of Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection. Because you're living a faith that's based on keeping rules and observing laws and commandments, which is fine. You're rooted in a faith that's focused on you better be good. Again, nothing really wrong with being good, all for it. But it means that ultimately your faith is rooted in yourself, in your actions, how you're doing, your performance. It's not really a trust in God. Because in your mind, God is up there keeping score of each and everything that happens. On the other hand, if you find yourself drawn to Here Comes Santa Claus, I know some would say, even though it does not mean this, but they say this with great anxiety, well, then you think anything goes. No. No, it means you understand, as well as a human being might be able to, that God loved us so much that God chose to identify fully with the human condition, even to death, a death that was ignoble and shameful. And even more importantly, in Jesus' resurrection, God definitively conquered sin and death for us, giving us the freedom. The freedom. That's where freedom comes from, the death and resurrection of Christ. The freedom to focus a lot less on ourselves and to focus much, much more on one another and the common good. This is a faith that's not rooted in ourselves, but rather is a faith that is grounded in placing our trust and our hope in God. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden light.